Here is my review of the Vulcan Welder by Harbor Freight. Just got this home and I wanted to share it because I saw this the other day on Harbor Freight's website and thought it was interesting because they had been making those really shitty Chicago electric welders for a long time, and it appears that they've really tried to step up their game. This appears to be trying to compete with the other budget welders, the AHP and the Everlast. This was interesting. They claim to have a 1-year risk-free trial, which after some discussion at the store equates to Harbor Freight extending their already pretty loose return policy to a whole year. So I guess if you don't like this, you can take it back. It does 120 as well as 240. It comes with basically everything you need, which is really nice that it's there under $1,000 and you can just go to the store and pick it up. I know that the torch it comes with, somewhere on the box it says that it's a 150 amp torch, so that leads me to believe that the actual DC welding rating is closer to 150. Congratulations. Purchase state-of-the-art, blah blah blah. Got it out of the box. First impressions. I looked at it in the store. You can see the design inspiration from the Lincoln. You can definitely see that this is the knobs here, a little bit better, definitely a better quality than what they've had in the past. Looks like it's one knob. Looks like you choose your setting here and then you run this dial. What's nice is it has amps. Obviously amperage adjustment. It has a pulse setting. Looks like it's probably just on off, high low. I don't know that it has a whole lot of very sexy features there. It has AC balance, so you're digging your clean cycle, and then the frequency setting. I believe it goes up to 100 hertz. DC is obviously not as interesting, but it does pulse, amperage, and obviously you just turn it on to stick because most TIG welders will weld stick. Switch right there on the front. Dinse connectors. I don't know if you can see that. Dinse connectors. Now, big ass fan in the back. One thing I don't see on this that I have on the Millers and the Lincolns is it has no post-flow setting. The workmanship is without a doubt better than its predecessors. They're really trying to go all out with this. It's not too heavy. They say it weighs 50 pounds. Harbor Freight, ground clamp. I never liked these things. Kind of a piece of shit. This style, it's the Harbor Freight standard, but it's cheap, it's what comes with it. Stick welding, ooh, that's a little chunky. Not very nice at all. Just feels like it's struggling or grinding. You got the foot pedal. Looks pretty nice. Standard connector. Or rather, I don't know what you would call that, but it's got, look, what is that, 9-pin connector. I don't know if that works with other machines. We got our Dinse connector, Dinse, whatever you say. Air cooled, got this rubber or plastic grommet here. I don't know that I would trust, I don't know I would write home about this torch. Again, I'm mostly interested in the machine, but it's nice that they give you everything. You can weld everything. The only thing they don't give you is the argon cylinder. This is a full set of consumables. 3 different, what appears to be 3 different collets, 3 different rod holders. Hey, cat. Hey. Kitty. Yeah, she's not interested. It's nice that they throw this in. It's a small consumable kit. Again, it's everything you need to weld without having to go back to the store. Because even when I bought my Miller, I had to go back and buy something. What's included is very impressive. The construction of the machine itself is very nice. I don't know that I like having two different cords with this shitty 1934 connector on here. 1934, and it's old dated technology. I don't know that I like that, but don't have time right now. But I'm gonna go take this out in the garage, hook it up, give it a spin. So I got it plugged in here to my 220, 240. Let's just see what it does when we turn it on. Alright, so one thing I notice right now is that the fan runs all the time, unlike the Miller that runs only part of the time. I don't really like that because it just makes a lot of noise. The Millers and Lincoln supposedly run the fan selectively to keep dust out. Walk through the settings here. Looks like you adjust the amps this way. So you turn this knob here, and then you go over here to pulse. It starts it off. Balance setting, so the amount of time it's positive and negative on AC. I believe it's a square wave, although it doesn't say, or I didn't look hard enough. And it looks like this is the frequency adjustment, so it goes up to 150 hertz down to 50. What I don't like about this is the way you kind of have to walk through all the settings to see how it's set. A good machine's you're gonna be able to look at the panel and figure out all your settings. You should be able to say how many amps I on without having to dick with some knobs here. This 2-knob thing is obviously a cost-cutting measure because it doesn't have like an LCD screen. I mean, that saves about a bit of money there. But having to just kind of walk through all the settings, or even the Everlast ones have like a little panel that will indicate, like, you know, that you can just read all of the settings and you can glance at it. Got an over temperature alert here. It tells you if you've run it past its duty cycle. Just power indicator. I don't know what VRD means off the top of my head. The chart here is actually pretty comparable to some of the other inverter welders you see on the market. We have DC and AC settings. It looks like it goes up to, on aluminum, 3/16, and as well as mild steel. It has a duty cycle. It's a low duty cycle, so this wouldn't be good for like a fabrication shop where you're going to be running it continuously. I've never liked this. This is a pretty standard connector. You see it on a lot of boats and RVs. I had this connector as my shore power on my boat, and it died out. It's a terrible connector. These were invented, I believe, in 1934. They have really bad contacts. They are loose. They wobble. They've caught fire. I don't know why people still use these, but this isn't running continuous 24 hours, so I guess it's okay. It's nice that it's a standard plug and you can replace it. You don't have to go with Harbor Freight. But I still just don't like those connectors. This is a few beads I ran with the machine just now. This is just some 1/8 inch plate here, and this here is actually a 1/2 inch piece of remnants that I picked up. These two were the first two beads I did, and I screwed up because I had a piece of stainless steel filler rod sitting on my bench, and I took too long to figure out that I wasn't welding with the right filler, so those didn't actually really weld very well. In case you ever want to know what that looks like when you try to mix stainless steel with aluminum. These two were the next beads that I ran. The gas lens really makes for a nice weld. I think I'm running 10 or so CFM of argon according to the little gauge. It kept melting my tungsten because I had too small of a tungsten for about the amperage I was pulling. So I ended up putting a bigger tungsten, but I didn't have a gas lens for that, and so these welds and this were done without the help of the gas lens. I tried out the pulse on some of these. I believe this one had the pulsar on. Pulsar worked fine. This one got a little out of control because I think the piece had gotten so hot by that point. I just cooked the hell out of the piece. Overall, I mean, this will produce a very decent weld with the right add-ons. Like I said, I could only do this with the gas lens. I had a smaller tungsten. You know, I didn't do a whole lot of setup. Up here in this one, I just wanted to see what happens, see what I could actually do by turning the machine all the way up on this thick piece, just to see what would happen. I didn't expect much. That barely formed a puddle. This kind of formed a puddle, but you know, I had inadequate gas coverage and the machine was doing everything it could possibly do. And I got a little bit of a puddle. I was able to kind of start a bead. Again, I only did that just for pure shits and giggles, just to see if the machine could do more. If you ever need to weld something this thick, you're probably going to have to use helium because you get that much of a hotter arc out of it. This machine is very impressive for the $900 price point for a Harbor Freight machine. I don't think it's a replacement for my Miller. And if I did get rid of the Miller, I would probably want to replace it with another Miller. Is this a welder worth the $900 with all the accoutrement included? Absolutely. Definitely, if you buy this, get a gas lens. There's no good reason not to be using a gas lens. Would you use this in a professional environment? I don't know. I'm not a professional welder. I'm more definitely a hobbyist. I would say that using a welder like this in a professional shop is a little bit like maybe using a Kenmore dishwasher in a commercial kitchen. Right conditions, I'm able to make pretty decent welds with this thing. So for the price I pay and for what it offers, and for it being Harbor Freight, I'm really impressed. They've done a good job stepping up their game. If you're looking for a welder that's not too expensive, that gives you AC, DC, I would go for it. It'll probably work for a long time. I didn't take it apart, look inside, especially if I want to like possibly take them up on the 1 year guarantee. So I don't really want to know how the hot dog is made. But this definitely competes with the other Chinese-made lower-price welders, like the AHP or the Everlast. Definitely made to compete with that. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if it's the same manufacturer. A couple of years ago, when they were trying to compete with Lincoln and Miller, they were a mixed bag of quality. I mean, this thing is light years ahead of the Chicago Electric brand. The Chicago Electric brand is just terrible. If you've seen those. And I think Harbor Freight knew that, and so they built these machines to compete with those other welders. And not only did they compete with the other welders, I think they've exceeded the expectations. I think they're pretty nice. Still think I might want to go for a Dynasty. But let's see how much use I get out of this one. I hope everyone enjoys this. I hope it's useful. I think that if you're looking for a decent welder that's not going to be too expensive, that does AC and DC, that TIG welds and can do aluminum, I mean, right there with the right torch and the right gas settings, you're able to make a pretty decent bead. I'm not a professional. I'm sure someone will critique me on the quality of this, but for being an amateur and being a hobbyist, I think that I made a pretty decent looking weld with this machine. No doubt in the hands of a very skilled welder, this could make some pretty decent welds. If anyone has any questions, let me know.